man.
Oh.
Big Luke. Welcome to the Granite Zero podcast. Thanks for coming on. Cheers for your time.
Mate. Yeah, I'll drink your tea at me nice big cup.
Right. That isn't just a cup. That's a Sports Direct mug, mate. If you spill that, mate, there's going to be a flood. You know how it is. How's it going? How's life treating you?
Yeah, good at the moment. After a few sticky months, obviously getting MD'd wasn't the one. It was a bit of a shock, but it was on the cards for a while, I'd say, after the injury. So I sort of knew there was a risk. Yeah. And when the operation didn't take as well as it was going to take, I sort of knew that I was on borrowed time. But still was a bit of a shock considering I was in a recruiting PID in an office. I thought I was quite safe. Clearly not. They had other plans. So
clearly not. If you're smashing yourself about playing rugby, you're gonna get hurt. So what was the injury that you got?
So I had torn ACL, torn UCL, and then damage to the femur. So where the ligaments had pulled away from the bone, they'd basically taken chunks of bone with them. But the problem now is where they've put the screws to hold the knee together. So die-cast, it's like a cross into the knee. Where they've done that in the femur's now gone grey, which means that that's starting to decay, which at some point means that they're going to have to take them screws out and then put them in higher up the knee.
Oh, right. So when you said it was going to start to decay, I thought you were going to say, well, at some point I'm going to have my leg cut off.
Well, that was one of the options that was given to me. So there's 3 options on the table: full knee replacement every 15 years.
Did you like having the back of your head? Did you go fucking Invictus Games calling?
A murder ball in the wheelchair. No, I mean, at the moment, it's touch wood. It's been pretty good. I mean, I'm not on it as much as I would be in the military. I've spent a lot of time sitting in it, getting in and out of cars, which you think would hurt it more, but actually doesn't. But no, touch wood, as I said, it seems to be okay, and hopefully we won't have to have the big operation. But it is always on the table at some point, so we'll see where they take this.
How did it happen then? Was it a bad tackle or
just an unfortunate tackle? Really, I was at the back of a ruck, and then was playing the RLC of all people. Always the RLC. He was playing the RSC infantries versus the RLC. Foot got caught in the ground. Big Fijian come over and pretty much wiped me out. So it was a painful day at the office, that one.
Yeah, a buddy of mine. We were playing RAF, fucking some station, and my mate Ginge. He didn't even get tackled. He went to do a sidestep, and as his foot landed, his knee went completely the opposite way. Completely tore his ACL completely. He was gone. The bigger
you are sometimes. Don't try and step.
Yeah, but he's not that well. He's tall, but he's not like he's not a big lad as such. He probably is now, fat fucker. But
happens to us all.
Yeah, well, I'm case in point for that. But yeah, he did this step and done his knee. And then I don't know, you probably would have gone by the time my mate Chris went to work for Canary Wharf, but he's just had his.
What's his last name?
Chris Dunn. He's very good mates with our mutual friend, or our mutual creature, as we shall refer to him as, Dan Shipper.
Dan Shipper. I think I do know him. The name rings bells. Yeah, I know Dave Atkins as well.
Yeah. So Chris is an avid listener. So get well soon, mate. That's genuine. That's not just me being banter. He basically had his fucking knee was completely screwed, and then I don't know if it was before or after he ran the London Marathon, but his knee was completely gone. And he ended up doing a charity football match with myself, and his knee wasn't right there. He came off, and he was like, "My knee's not right." And then because we were playing Spurs, and he's a Spurs fan, he was like, "Can I come back on?" He was like, "Yeah." But yeah, he's now just gone through his operation, so he's on the mend. He won't be playing in the next game, but yeah, he's on the mend. But fucking knee.
It's a long road to recover the old knee. So it took me a while to get back to any sort of running, and even that was laboured.
What's running?
So it can be a long road back.
I don't know what running
exactly,
is. Yeah. Oh, so let's break down to it, because obviously we're chatting here like we're pals, and everybody listening is going, "Who the fuck is this guy?" So,
yeah.
So obviously the big man, Coldsteam Guards. Talk us through it. Why did you join the Guards?
Well, the first reason was because of my height. So I joined in 2003, or late 2002. Went into the recruiting office as we did back then. It's not all like it is now, where it's all jumping through hoops and medical jargon and a load of crap. You literally walked in, picked a regiment, went away for a few days, thought about it, come back, signed a line, and he was in. Yeah, so I went in just generic infantry. Was going to go Anglands, obviously being from Essex, that was our regiment. And then the recruiter was like, "Nah, you don't want to go Anglands, mate. You want to go Guards. Someone of your size, someone of your height would fit into a T." So I come back when I see my granddad, who was in the military, and he said, "If you go Grenadiers, I'll never talk to you again." I was like, "Okay." So I'm going Coldstream. And he was like, "Yeah, Coldstream Guards, off you go." And that was pretty much it. Obviously, went through Catterick. Did me 6 months up there. I spent about 6 months in Chelsea. And then we got told that the regiment was to deploy to Iraq in 2005. So we needed to start our training, etc. for that. Half the regiment was still coming back from Northern Ireland. So they were away on their pothole leave and resettlement leave. You had a large number of them getting out after Northern Ireland because they'd just had enough of being away from home. And then to be told that you're going to bounce straight on another tour probably wasn't the best for them. So they bounced back.
And a completely different tour as well.
Yeah,
going from Ireland to then fighting the way we had to in Iraq and Afghan, completely different.
Well, yeah, so that's what a lot of lugs struggle with. I mean, for us, we were quite lucky. We went in 2005, so we didn't really have much trouble in the first few months. We had the elections. That was a bit sticky. There was a few protests, a few little shots fired here and there. A couple of Chinese rocket attacks from camp. Nothing major. We was in the Shuttle Arab Hotel. And then we had the Jamiat riots, which is when the SAS punters got arrested and held capture in the police station. So a couple of our platoons deployed down to that. Some of us stayed back on QRF. And that was pretty much it. Iraq was an eye-opener for a young 18-year-old like myself whose first deployment. Yeah. But in terms of a deployment, it was pretty straight-laced. There wasn't much going on, to be fair. And then flip the scale to when we deployed to Afghanistan, it was a completely different kettle of fish. It was there from the moment we got off the plane. It was like, fuck, this is a bit different.
Yeah, but
and it's what you train for, effectively. Did that, and then come back from there. Went to 7 Company. I was posted there for a while. Met my partner, had my first child, and then decided, you know what, the army probably isn't the greatest place to be a young father. And then when I did the worst thing possible, when I did the anti-piracy, which meant I was away more.
Yeah, I know. I had this conversation. I did a podcast earlier, and I had that exact conversation pretty much because he asked about my resettlement and what I did, and I was like, well, I ended up doing a CP course because I thought, as an infantryman, what do I need to? What skills have I got that are transferable? So obviously, security. I ended up doing similar to what Dan did, where I actually stuck in the security circuit home instead of going CP, because I looked at it and I was talking to my dad. My old man got me a few sort of gigs or potential gigs, and I was looking at it and I was looking at the time away to the time at home, and I was like, well, that's the reason why I left the military, was to be with the wife and the nuggets indoors. I went, as much as Ali as it would be looking after the Sultan of Brunei, you know, I'm gonna probably turn that down, Dad.
100%.
He keeps saying to me now, even now, he's like, I've got a job coming up. Do you fancy? And I'm like, Dad, no. As much as the money would be lovely, I'm okay.
The boats were pretty good, to be fair. It was an eye opener to see what actually goes on over there.
You must have been surrounded by Marines or former Marines.
To be fair, no, I was quite surprised. It was more, we had quite a few infantry lads, and then I sort of, when I got in, it was starting to tail off. The money was starting to drop out of it massively. So even when I started, the money was dropping out hugely. And then I started off on a full British team. So I went over there, had a British team with me, stayed on, had a British team come back out. As my first one as a TL was a British team. Then I come home, had a few weeks off, deployed back out to South Africa. So flew to South Africa. I was to pick a vessel up from Durban, sailed to Sri Lanka, and then back from Sri Lanka up to Suez Canal. And I got on the vessel and went up, as you do as team leader, you go straight up to the bridge. It's like, hi, I'm the team leader, blah, blah, blah. Where's my team? He pointed over to these two Sri Lankans. Nothing against Sri Lankans. They're great people. Didn't speak a fucking word of English.
Brilliant.
And I was like, this is going to work really well. Like, I've got two Sri Lankan lads, don't understand a word I'm saying, and I've got to try and give these orders. So I thought, we'll try and use generic army slang of get a weapon out. And they both looked at this M4 like it was magic. They were like, they've never seen it before. And I was like, this is going to be a really long 23 days at sea.
Yeah,
Luckily,
definitely.
nothing happened. They got off. They went off and when he counted their money that they'd made and pretty happy.
They got off and had a quick game of cricket, is what they did.
yeah. So
love a game of cricket.
Yeah, and then my last few festivals, it was all foreign nationals, Eastern European lads, all good lads, nothing against them. But again, it's just you're fighting a battle with them because they're trained, they're taught different to how we're taught. Some of them have even got licenses, so we have to jump through hoops to do the close protection. The anti-piracy. You have to have a seaman's book and all these bloody jargon, all these medical terms, all these SC95s. Seaman's book. It's like, yeah, no, exactly. Like a fucking passport for the team.
It's all your dates, mate. That's what that is.
Yeah, fucking nightmare. But yeah, so then the plan was to rejoin, do the next 12 years in the military, and then retire with a full pension. But that didn't exactly work out.
No.
So here we are.
Here we are, living the dream.
Here we are. Yeah. So it's not too bad. I mean,
it's good that you sort of shed some light on what the guards do, because you know a lot of people basically see you with your fucking bearskin on, your red tunic, living the dream,
I mean,
marching about, but not a lot of like civvies and laymen's will know that you guys are actually fighting units. It's the same with the Queen's Colour. A lot of people think that they just march around with fucking flashy rifles that make us look like cunts, but you know they actually do a bit as well from time to time. Well, not compared to some units, but you know.
No, I mean that's the common misperception with the guards, that we are just all for show and glory, but it's not the case. I mean, there's lads that I've served with that are still serving now that have managed to miss 7 Company every time. So 7 Company is our ceremonial company. They're on state ceremonials constantly, and then obviously the battalions drop in and out as and when they're needed. But with the way things are working out at the moment, I think it's going to be left more to the ceremonial companies, and the units will go away and do what they've got to do. Touchwood, get some actual tours under their belts now, because that's the problem with
probably not now though. Unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, but fortunately, but unfortunately, because you join the army because you want to do bits, you want to do tours, you want to do some fucking action, be an action man, as I wanted to be as a kid. That's why I joined the RAF Reg, because you know we have to fucking do 5 Mile of Death. I don't know if you've been able to do that, but you know,
not at the moment. I wouldn't know.
Exactly.
Not.
So there's no gobbing off if you can't do it. So
I took the push bike.
Yeah, but you know, I think it'll be a struggle for them to do. Well, I'll say a struggle to get retention, but probably not, because they're now in that sort of period where there isn't Iraq and Afghanistan, a bit like the late sort of 90s when there wasn't Kosovo and all that sort of stuff. There was that period where the army could go and properly train, and same with the Air Force, and then also do the fun stuff that you think that when you get told at the recruitment office, oh, you get to go and see the world. Cool. I saw Iraq and Afghanistan. Cheers. They get to go off and do, like I was chatting earlier on a podcast earlier, and he was like, oh, I spent loads of time out in Norway doing cold weather training and stuff like that. And I was like, I'd love to have done that.
So yeah, well, there is. I mean, I didn't have a bad time. I've done a bit of time in Germany.
Yeah, don't
bit
get
of
me
time
wrong.
in
I didn't
Canada.
have a bad time, just to say, by the way.
Yeah. I think the problem is now is not so much. I think it's the policies that have been put in place for the blokes. It's a lot harder, and the women. It's a lot harder now to, especially you're in that sticky wicket. Guardsmen, they're great. They know their job. They do their job. Fantastic. When you start to step up, it's that grey area now, isn't it? They don't know what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say anymore. I mean, even when I was getting out, I was doing the recruiting side of it, and some of the courses you have to go on, like what you have to be
Yeah.
mindful of what you can and can't say. At the end of the day, we're the military. We're a little bit different to a normal job, and
Yeah. I literally, I generally did a whole episode on this, like
yeah.
when I first started, just talking to myself, and it was literally titled "We're Not Normal"
Yeah,
because we're not.
you can't be. I had it a few times in the recruiting office. I won't name anyone just because some of them probably didn't get through. But there was a few cases where they'd come in with their parents and they'd ask you like the most. Is there a chance that he's going to go abroad? I'm sorry, I don't want to talk down to you, but yes, he's joining the military. He's not joining the Girl Guides. He's joining a job whose potential job is to go abroad and fight foreign armies. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't think of that before you come to the recruiting office. That's pretty simple. It's on the tin. You're joining as an infantry soldier. That's pretty much part and parcel of the job.
That's where the government and the head sheds of the armed forces, the MOD, need to get a grip, because they need to get rid of this woke society out of the military, because the fucking potentially the enemy is not going to care about your fucking feelings.
Exactly, 110%.
Why should the instructors that are breaking you down to build you up in the mold that we should be, why should they give a fuck?
But the Irish Guard, look at the Irish Guard sergeant that shouted at someone and made him call around the track plan because he had fucked up. He then went and said, "No, I was being abused." Obviously, it's all been thrown out now. He's been found not guilty. Yeah. But that will still follow him around for the rest of his career. At some point, somewhere, when he sits down for his next promotion ball, they're going to go, "Well, yeah, but he did this back in Catterick or wherever he was, Harrogate."
Fucking madness, mate. A buddy of mine, I won't name him. He was I don't know if he still is or if he's not anymore, but he was an instructor on basics, and he called a recruit a cunt. That was literally it. You're being a fucking cunt, something along those lines. He got reported to Ofsted, mate.
Yes, so there you go. So
you,
I mean, the NPCTs, I work with them with Dave. Dave Atkins, a great guy. NPCTs, I think, are fantastic. A lot of people slag them off and say that they're a waste of funding, but they're not, because the soldiers that you get from them to go through training are usually a lot keener and a lot fitter than the generic ones coming through. But even now, I know a few times, it never happened to me, thankfully, or the team that I worked with, but there was a few lads that had gone down and they said a few wayward comments. And then you'd hear him getting RTU'd back to units because Ofsted had been, or someone had been informed. And it's just like, if you're the parent of that kid and they've come home and said, "Oh, a soldier called me a twat," or something like that, you'd go, "Well, you probably was being a twat."
Yeah, my old man would have gone, "Well, what did you do?" And I would have gone, "Well, I did this," and you'd probably gone, "Well, you were being a cunt then, weren't you?" But
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like a hornet's nest. You say one wrong word, and you before you know it, you're the worst person in the military.
Yeah,
because you've called someone a twat.
My training was a bit of a mixture, so we still had quite hard-nosed instructors that you didn't really want to get on the wrong side of. We had a lot of beastings. We had our fucking lockers turned upside down and fucking kit screwed up and thrown out, and what you should be getting basically. But we also had the color system. So if you were shit for a fucking a weapons handling test, you'd get a yellow. And then so many of them, you'd then go on fucking flight commander's review and fucking shit like that. So it was sort of a mixture where you weren't getting fucking beaten up by your instructors unless it was bayonet training, but you were getting fucking grief. You were getting knife handed to death. And boots thrown at you. I had my boots thrown at me.
Oh, God. I can't remember. Paul Bainesy, I love this because he was my old instructor. He used to love throwing my boots off the wall. Bless him.
It must have been even worse for you guys. But so obviously, when you're a fully fledged guardsman and you're going
Yeah.
and you're doing your ceremonial duties, obviously you must get inspected quite regularly.
You do and you don't. So I mean, obviously, that it's a weird place to guards because everyone thinks that they're going to be massively anal. Some of them can be. Some of them can be absolute fucking woolbags. And like some of my mates that have been watching this have been laughing because they know exactly what I'm talking about. There'd be certain guys where you'd think, "Fuck, I can't believe this. He's inspecting us today. We're fucked."
Yeah.
And look, we use all the trick of the trades. I used to love clearing my boots. I'd get my boots to an absolute fantastic level and then clear them. And that was then done for 3-4 weeks. When I was a senior guardsman, I'd do the mount. I'd walk into St James's Palace guard room, take my boots off, not see him again for 48 hours, put them back on and march back down the mall to do the dismount. And that was me done. 48 hours on, 48 hours off. It was the easiest life in the world. Tower of London was even easier as a senior guardsman. You'd do the mount, fuck off to the Tower of London, sit there for 48 hours and come back with kits and cakes. It was great. But then there was other blokes that would trust you and go, yeah, we trust these blokes. But at the end of the day, it's more about the bloke or the individual himself. I used to like looking smart in my uniform because it made you feel so, especially when you're doing state ceremonials. Whenever you put that tunic on, you should want to look smart. Grey coat was great because it was really easy to do. You don't have to do your boot and your belts.
Yeah.
If you're in tunic, obviously, it takes a little bit more time. If you got medals, so the more medals you get, the more the pain in the arse it gets. So
more alley you are though. So.
Oh yeah, it's always good to have a couple of.
It's quite funny looking at them now because there's obviously only a handful that have got medals now, apart from the Buckshee Jubilee medal. So cheers for that. Cheers for your fucking chocolate medal. Fuck off.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've only got 2 tour medals and 2 jubilees. I didn't give it long service.
It looks good, mate. Looks good.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. So it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, I've got we're in the same time frame. We've got a rack of medals. I chose a different path. I obviously chose sport over the military side. Wherever I could, I was on a rugby pitch. Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, the last from 2016 to 2021, I was living the life that everyone in the army wanted. I wasn't even on the army rugby team.
Those who fucking gob off about tracksuit soldiers need to get a grip because if you were any good at sport, you would do it. Like I tried my fucking hardest.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even make the army team, but I still managed to get out of work. So
yeah, every time I was like, every time I was getting close to getting really into a sport that I was good at, whether it was, even though I'm only a fucking midget, whether it was basketball, football, rugby, even down to boxing, anytime I was getting close to getting like station level and then maybe regiment level. Yeah, by the way, you're getting ready for pre-deployment. Oh, fucking fuck's sake.
I think me rejoining back in 2016 was probably the right time because we'd come off our last few rotations. We weren't doing them much tours. We had a few Belize and Kenyas coming up. I managed to swerve then. I managed to get myself back to 7 Company in London, which was an absolute godsend.
At Woolwich?
No, so we'd gone back. We were in Woolwich so Chelsea got knocked down end of 2007. We were based in Woolwich from 2008, and then about 6 months before Lee Rigby was murdered, we'd gone back to Chelsea Barracks, which is where we all are now. So you got 7 Company Coldsteam Guards, 9 Megan Grenadier Guards, and then F Company Scott Guards at the moment that are based there. And obviously there's talk that there's going to be another 2 regiments put in, another 2 companies from the Welsh and the Irish. But that was always happening. I've left now. I don't know if that's still the case. It might have changed. But yeah, I mean, Westminster, what place to be based? It was fantastic. I'd have the girls up. So it was fine for me. I used to eat, drink, and cooking and cleaning and cooking the accommodation, which was fantastic. You can't anything better than Sodexo, isn't it? I mean,
you got a decent naffy there or not, or did you have to go out for your beers?
The naffy's all right, but I mean, there's a pub right outside camp. You literally walk out of camp, you got a Buckingham. Walk two minutes up the road, you got the Old Star and the Adam and Eve. So you're in London.
Give you a discount or not?
They used to, yeah. I don't know if they do no more. I think a certain lad that'll be watching this fucked it up for us. I won't name him. Damien Hardy.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That was a strange time, wasn't it? With the what happened with Lee Rigby down at Woolwich.
Yeah, so I was out. So I'd got out end of 2012.
Yeah.
No, beginning of 2012. And obviously that just happened. So I think I was on my resettlement leave. I was sitting there watching it on telly, thinking, "Fuck, I know that place."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I really know that place. Why do I know that?" And obviously I turned the news up. I was like, "Fuck, that's Woolwich Arsenal. That's the barracks." And then it clicked what had gone on. I was like, "Gee." To be fair, when we were based there, it wasn't a place you felt unsafe, although it was really bad. There's about 3 different gangs there. So you had a Nigerian gang called the Cherry Boys that used to live to the left of camp. Then you had the Asian gangs that were prominent at giving soldiers a bit of abuse when we went out. And then you had another, like an Eastern European gang, but they never really come near camp.
Yeah.
So
that's fucking
we
mad.
never really, I mean, we had, I think a couple of Grenadier lads had their car hijacked at the traffic lights. But I mean, you're in London, you expect that anyway. And I'm pretty sure there was a crazy guy that kept coming past camp and was threatening to shoot the soldiers on the front gate. And you get that most places, but there was nothing really to say that it was dangerous, obviously. And then what happened to Lee was horrendous. He's never been seen on the streets of London before, and hopefully it'll never be seen again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That was fucking.
But, I mean, it could happen anywhere. It could happen at Wellington Barracks. I mean, Wellington Barracks is one of the biggest barracks, the well-known barracks, not biggest, but one of the most well-known barracks in the UK at the moment, because obviously everyone knows who lives there and who marches out there every day.
Yeah.
But then we are quite well policed around there. I don't know if you've ever been there. You're always seeing police. There's police everywhere. It's probably one of the most policed parts of London. So if you ever need a police officer, you know where to go.
Yeah, just go up there. Just go up there.
So don't go anywhere else though. But I mean, yeah, it is. It's a nice place. I used to take the girls there. We loved it. So I had a nice room on the 7th floor. It's like a massive, huge room. We used to treat it like a little hotel. I'd take them up there for the weekend and spend all weekend there with the girls. Cost me a fortune and send them back home to their mum. With their pockets full of sweets.
Yeah, and hyper.
So that's what you want. But no, yeah, it's that's probably one of the biggest things I miss about the military at the moment is that freedom to have London on your doorstep. Now, obviously, I'm here, back in Essex where I live, and then I've actually got to work for a living now. I can't remember the last time in the military I worked past 2 o'clock. I'm doing 17-hour days. 17-hour days at the moment. They're killing me.
I bet, mate. I bet.
But that's the risk you got to take when you try to start your own little company, isn't it? So you've got to be there. You've got to do the hours. You've got to put the work in because nobody else is going to do it for you.
No, exactly, mate.
But touch wood, we seem to be growing slowly.
But that's what it takes sometimes. You know, you got to put that. If you don't put the effort in, then you can't expect miracles. You know, everybody's got to work hard. Like I find when it comes down to like the podcast, if I don't put any effort in and I just send a couple of emails every now and then to try and get a guest on, then it just nothing will happen. So I have to literally go through who do I fancy on, basically.
Yeah.
Who fits my narrative, who do I think would have a good rapport with, and if people aren't ticking those boxes, then the podcast ends up really fucking dog shit.
You sit here going,
yeah. Well, mate, I have had one. I'll message you after this who it was. He's a former SFSG Marine who is now was a cage fighter. That's all I was saying. I'll send you who he was. But I got so many people telling me, "Oh fucking, what have I done here? Yeah, get him on. He'll be really good. Yeah. I got him on, mate, and I've never been so bored trying to talk to someone in my life. And I was like, why is this so difficult? He wasn't even giving me banter about being in the RAF Reg. And I was like, I expect that.
You'd expect, yeah.
Like, especially from a Marine. We're supposed to be part of the big three, for fuck's sake. I was waiting for him to go, what the fuck are you doing here? Where's your 5 mile corridor? But there was nothing. There was nothing. No back and forth. And then, like, towards the end of it, he literally just came out with it and went, are we going to talk about mindset or what? And I was like, that's a bit fucking rude. Like,
Yeah.
like if you've ever listened to the podcast, it's more like a fucking chat in the pub. Like,
Yeah, it's to talk about people's experiences, I suppose, isn't
yeah,
it? More
and
than
it's
anything?
wherever the conversation. Oh, fucking kick me
Yeah.
fucking thing. Let me knock that back. It's wherever the conversation goes. Like, if we're at the minute we're talking about our experiences within the military, but you know, we could be talking about fucking any sort of conspiracy theory or
Yeah.
football, rugby. Like, we can talk about rugby in a minute, obviously, because obviously the game's happening on the fucking weekend, isn't it? But
Well, at the moment, it's happening. Yeah, let's see what happens with that one. So, I mean,
exactly, like, but there was none of that. It was like at the time we just got the go ahead for the charity football match against Spurs, so I was excited about that. And we were chatting away with me and my brother. This guy was an hour late, by the way, to the podcast.
shocking.
And that annoyed me anyway because fucking anal with time. But anyway, and he clocked on. He looked grumpy as it was. And I was like it was like getting blood out of a stone. And I was like, even down to, when you played or when you go through your training camps or anything like that, do you have any superstitions? I was like, for me, I have to wear like something on my left wrist for whatever reason. I just have to do it. My brother was like, I have to do it like my right side of the body first. So it would be like my right shin pad, my right sock,
Yeah.
my right boot, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, have you got anything? He went, nah, I don't believe in anything like that.
So, really fun guy.
I was like, all right, this is a cool conversation. My brother left. He pretended like his signal went, but he just left. He just left the chat. Gone. I was like, cheers for leaving me.
That's what you want. That's what you need.
But yeah, if we quickly step on to the rugby for the weekend. So what
Yeah.
was that all about? Was it contracts or pay or something? I don't know.
I believe so. I've been led to believe it's something to do with they're not agreeing with what they're being paid in their contracts. I mean, rugby's one of them worlds where it's a very. I mean, I never reached that sort of heights where I was being paid the big numbers, but it's one of them where it's not like football where you can be paid millions a week to kick a ball. They have to. There's a certain level they have to earn, and the rest has to be put through the books as sponsorship.
Yeah.
So Saracens were the most famous one. They were paying blokes like through shadow companies, so like Tiki Tonka Coffee and things like that, which never actually existed. But that's how they were getting their extra money. And I think what Wales are saying is we deserve more for what we do, which they do. You think about it, rugby players' careers are very short.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at James Haskell; he's still only his early 30s or middle 30s, but he's now fully retired and will never play the game again due to a toe injury. You've got George North, obviously, with all his concussions. Like my brain's fried from playing rugby, scrambled because of it. The amount of concussions that you get in a game is ridiculous. And you never tell anyone. You just try and crack on. It's a bit like being in the military, I suppose. You try and crack on until you physically can't. And that's the problem. I think that's what they're saying. That there needs to be something in place for these players that are in their later years or their twilight years. What are they going to do when they leave? Because they're so young. Do they go get a normal job? Could you get a normal job? A world class rugby player?
Yeah, not all of them are going to become rugby pundits or rugby coaches or
exactly
anything like that.
So I suppose it's a bit like the military, isn't it? You leave the military, and unless you're well qualified when you're in the military, you're sound. Unless you've got a plan when you leave, if you're one of them guys that's a bit like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, before you know it, you're fucked. You're sitting in your front door, you're sitting in your front room thinking, fuck, where's the next bit of money coming from? Whilst drinking shots of vodka and whiskey, trying to numb out the pain and thinking, fuck, I failed. I know a few blokes that are struggling right now. I mean, I won't name them because they wouldn't appreciate it. But there's one lad that he rings me regularly, and he's always like, "Fucking, what am I going to do?" And I'm like, "Mate, I can't help you. I'd go back to the army." But then the British Legion, I don't want to say too much because I've got something ongoing with them at the moment. We're at loggerheads, but they've been absolutely useless for me.
I concur with that as well.
Yeah, I went to them with a problem. I had a solution to the problem. I didn't even want anything from them. I just needed advice, legal advice. And they revved me off for months and months. And in the end, I had to go somewhere else to get the legal advice.
Yeah.
And then I messaged them and told them what had gone on. And then the bloke was like, "Well, you solved it. What's your problem?" So that's not the answer,
it's
mate.
fucking madness,
That's
mate.
probably the worst answer you can give me.
I had a well, not in terms of legal stuff, but with the big Air Force charity, I won't name them, and the one you just mentioned, won't name them.
Yeah, I know. So
basically, when I was really at my lowest and my depression was really fucking getting to me, and the PTSD was sort of at the forefront, and I didn't really know what to do. It's when I first started sort of the podcast, and I let them know, I was like, "Look, I've got this sort of problem. I have an outlet for it, and I think it's something that can really help a lot of veterans." I was basically asking for a bit of advice and maybe some sort of, maybe like a little sponsor or something like that can help push me through.
Something to give you a kickstart.
And I basically from both of them, I got assigned a caseworker. It's now coming up to the podcast 4-year anniversary on March 4th, and this caseworker still hasn't arrived. So
fantastic help from
really good help. And the funny thing is, right? So I've seen a load of jobs pop up on Royal British Legion.
Yeah,
I've applied for probably 90% of these jobs that have popped up. Some of them are fundraising things. Some of them are just like caseworker type stuff. Yeah, each one.
Yeah.
Sorry, your application has been denied and things like that. And I'm like, oh, right, cool. In my head, it's like, what better than having a veteran that has been through what I've been through and come out the other side and could possibly give advice to these people or speak to these other companies that then sponsor the likes of the British Legion and things like that. But no, they don't want that. They want fucking some other cunt. But we live and learn, don't we? We live and learn.
And that's the problem. But the problem with him is when you're leaving. So obviously, I don't know if you got medics discharged. But when I went for my first initial meeting, and I got told I was going for a medical with the med board because I'd been downgraded for so long. So at no point was I informed that there was a higher possibility I was getting discharged. Yeah. So I turned up in PT kit, thinking I'm going for a medical. They're going to want to see me in PT kit. So I rocked up to a meeting in a pair of shorts, a t-shirt and a cap, and a pair of trainers. And I walked in and there's 4 full colonels, a couple of half colonels, and a company sergeant major that was my legal advice. And she was like, where have you come from? I was like, well, London. She was like, no, but where have you come from? I was like, London. She's like, why are you in PT kit? I was like, it's a medical, right? She was like, no, this is the med board, which you're not informed. I was like, fuck, I'm in PT kit.
Do you think I would have turned up in PT kit if you had told me it was a med board?
You're about to walk into a room with 4 colonels and 2 half colonels, and I was like, would you not think I should have been informed about this? She went, we did tell them to tell you. I was like, no one's fucking told me. So their face was great when I walked in PT kit. But then on the flip side, they got to see the actual damage to the knee. So I suppose it was a win-win situation for me.
Yeah.
But then to sit down and be told, oh, by the way, this is about you getting medically discharged, I was like, whoa, stop. Like, put the brakes on, hold up a second. What do you mean I'm getting medically discharged? And she was like, well, you've been downgraded for 3 years. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm the one.
Hello. You're at the adverts. So don't turn off. Don't turn off because I've got some good stuff for you. First up, I'm going to talk about our sponsors. Kent CBD is our first sponsor. Now, CBD oil, as you know, has tremendous benefits, especially within mental health and physical health. Personally, I use it to help with my anxiety and my depression, but not only that, I also use it to help with the aches and pains of life in my joints, especially my ankles and my knees. But yeah, without CBD oil, I would have still been on my antidepressant tablets, which I'm no longer on. So, every cloud. And what we're going to do here at Granite Zero is we're going to give you 10% off everything from oil, muscle rub, jellies, bath salts, the lot. Yeah? Make sure you get in there. www.kentcbd.org. Put in the promo code GRANITE0 and get yourself 10% off. You are welcome. But also, if you're like me and you love a nice cup of coffee. Now, for me, I only drink one coffee, and that's Green Beret coffee. Now, I don't only drink it because it's out of this world fucking coffee, roast to order, grinded to whatever specific grind you want. But not only that, it's veteran owned and veteran run, which, you know, hits me right in the feels. So make sure you check it out, Green Beret coffee. Get yourself a nice cup of coffee. I drink it dark, just like my soul. Incredible stuff, incredible stuff. And what I'm going to give for you, I'm going to give you 10% off. So once you get to the checkout, once you've got all your coffee, your products, your apparel, whatever you need, get to the checkout and put in the promo code GZPodcast10 and get yourself 10% off. Courtesy of the Granite Zero podcast. You are welcome. Now, that's enough of me talking about this stuff. Back to the regular scheduled show. Check it out!
Yeah, so, I was like, well, stop that, put the brakes on. What do you mean I'm getting MD'd? She was like, yeah, you've been downgraded. I was like, yeah, I get that. I know I've been downgraded, but I'm in a job which doesn't require me to be medically fit. I'm doing recruitment. I'm doing good in recruitment. Me and I'll name him. I love it. I'll name dropping Cole New. We took over a unit called the DST, Divisional Support Team, which is basically a household division recruitment team. And the idea was to get away from the stigma of, oh, you're not combat troops, you're just ceremonial troops, you're not soldiers, you're just guys in uniform. But we'd go around all the places, so we were going out into places that you wouldn't expect guardsmen to come from. So we were going to Barking, East Ham, all of these really hard-nosed areas and getting soldiers to join. And the numbers went through the roof. Then we bumped into Dave Atkins and managed to get onto the NPCTs, and it was like an untapped playground for us. We were going in and we were getting all the guys that were undecided what they were going to do or thought that they were going to go paras but wasn't quite fit enough. And I'm going to get slated for this, but yeah, if you can't pass prac, we'll take you. There's a back door into the paras through the guards. We've got you.
Come here.
So, yeah. And it was great. It was fantastic. And for 4 years, we absolutely killed the market to the point where we were getting recognised by the top brass. And then to be told, no, mate, you're useless to us. Well, no, I'm clearly not, because if you look at the numbers in London for the last 4 years where we've been recruiting, why are you MDing me? Oh, it's a new policy. Basically, it turns out because they've got to get rid of 10,000 blokes, unfortunately, them 10,000 blokes, including myself. So, a bit of a,
make you redundant. I remember walking out the room. Pay you for that.
Yeah, I remember walking out the room thinking, "Fuck! Like, what am I going to do next?" So I had a few days, and obviously, like, I'm quite an open person. My partner knows I've struggled with PTSD horrendously for years, and it isn't through. I don't even think it's for anything that I see in Afghanistan and Iraq. I just think it's through some stuff that happened when I was away on the boats, and then a few things that just over your life that you hold against yourself. I've seen a few horrendous things. And that was a real kick in the teeth for me. It sort of took the wind out of me. And then to be told that that I wasn't going to play rugby again was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. It sort of knocked me for six. And I remember sitting in my room in Windsor, in Westminster, with a big bottle of Jack Daniels, just fucking like, do you know what, I'm just going to nick this cunt and see what happens. And that lasted for a good 3-4 weeks on and off. I will tell you, he was getting voice notes at 3:30 in the morning of great recruiting ideas that I'd come up with. I was absolutely smashed out my box, but they worked. So we were still doing really well with the recruiting. And then
it's a tricky one as well, isn't it? Because these people that sit on these boards, they don't understand that this is your life. at
Yeah,
times.
exactly.
Because to
Yeah,
them,
100%.
and I've said this a few times, and I think I've said it to some other people that, you know, to a lot of people, you're just a name and a number, and mainly just a number. So for them to get rid of that number, it doesn't mean anything. But
The
for
twice is
you,
everything.
yeah, but to you, that your number is your purpose. You were a guardsman. I was a fucking gunner. That was my identity. And when you've taken that away, I volunteered to take mine away, but it still fucking killed me. Like,
100%.
or should I say, nearly killed me.
Yeah.
Because that was my identity. When I first left, I did my hardest to hold on to everything I could. Like, even down to, I don't so much now. I tend to put, if I'm going to put a sort of military picture up of myself, it tends to be me on remembrance with my daughters with my medals, or me and my old man with his medals. It's I very rarely will post one as like a profile picture of me serving, but previous to that, it was me in Afghanistan, me in Iraq, me on fucking exercise or something. And I remember once I had a lad from back home, Bootsy. He's a good lad. He's on the circuit now. He's a good lad. He was a fellow gunner, but he's I used to play football him as a kid. I remember him sending me like a direct message just saying, "Tommo, you just got to let it go, mate." And I remember reading that, thinking, "Yeah."
I think that's a lot. I think the thing is, I mean, people are going to, people that know me that be listening to this will understand. I've got a real bugbear against not veterans. That's the wrong word, but these veterans, especially the guards. I don't know what it's like with your lot, but in the guards, you get these veterans, and they're like fucking Hitlers. And then the blokes that did 2-3 years minimum service got out, and all of a sudden they're now the best drillers, the best dressed, the best soldier ever.
You see them.
And then they go, and then they say to us, "Oh, I really don't understand why the association numbers are down. Why blokes don't want to come to see these association dealers? Because you're pricks." And that's the reason. We don't want to come because we don't want to be sat there and be belittled for the next 3 hours about how it's easier in nowadays and fucking blah blah. When it isn't easier at all, it's just different. It's concurrent to today's generation. It's not different. It's not easier. You're talking to guys like myself and other soldiers that have probably done more war fighting in their time in the military than you've ever seen in your whole career. But yet they're telling us that we had it easier. Oh yeah, Iraq wasn't a real war. No, it wasn't a real fucking war. I rolled my hands up. It wasn't. But we were still away from home in the fucking sandpit whilst you didn't do it. And you're trying to tell me that I had an easier time because you run up the sand hills in fucking Perthright. It isn't the case.
I had a laugh with my my godfather. So very similar to my dad. He was a PJI in the Air Force. Did fucking forever in the Air Force. I think he took commission in the end and ended up doing even fucking longer. But a bit like my dad. My dad did 22 years. He got a long service, good conduct medal, a Jubilee medal. In fact, he's got 2 Jubilee medals and 2 good service medals, but they were for the prison service as well. So I always wind him up and say, "Your medal's a chocolate, Dad. I don't know why you're talking to me. Don't talk to me." But I remember being at my wedding and my godfather came over to me and he saw because I had my 2 gongs on. He came over and he went, "Oh, I should have worn my my dress uniform and I would have shown you my 5 or 6 or whatever he's got." And I went, "Oh, right. Which ones are they then? Your chocolate ones?" And he was like, "What?" And I went, "These actually mean I've done something where yours are." Oh yeah, yours have just been because you've been a good boy for 8 years or whatever it is.
But don't get me wrong, like obviously they've all served, they've all done their time.
Oh yeah, I have
to
to reiterate that is banter that I do with my old man because to be fair to my dad, he did 22 years in the Air Force and then he did 20 years in the prison service.
So he did his fair share.
42 years of service to the Queen. I was like, fair play. Like,
you know, he's done his time. He's done his time. But I mean, that's my only bugbear with certain veterans. There's other, like myself. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm only new to it again, so the second time round. But I think apart from wearing the odd T-shirt that gets sent to me and the caps, etc. I wouldn't go out in a regimental t-shirt. I wouldn't wear anything.
Mine don't even
You know,
fit me anymore.
they're still fitting at the moment. There's a bit of tightness.
Yeah, but
I
I
mean,
get your point. I will wear like I'm wearing now, red coat.
yeah,
I'll wear veteran company stuff because let's face it, I like fucking I still associate myself as a veteran, and the veteran
yeah.
community, as toxic as it can be in certain places. If you know the right people, they're top blokes. Like
Oh,
Smudger from Redcoat is one of the nicest blokes. He's
yeah.
one of the nicest blokes I have never actually met.
Be like me.
Yes, exactly. But I'm starting to create these sort of networks and
Yeah.
fucking sound blokes. Like Smudger is fucking class. He messages me every now and then. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right." He's like, "The podcast good?" And I always go, "Yeah, it's going good. Cheers." I want to put when you fucking listen and find out.
Yeah, stop asking
Get
me.
my
Listen
fucking numbers up, will you?
Well, let's hope we get some numbers for this one. I'll probably get some banter back for this one, which I'm
Good,
expecting.
good. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So
Good.
one of the reasons why we've sort of connected, apart from
Yeah.
our mutual friend Dan Shipper, which I don't even think he connected us, but I think that was
No.
just me and you just chatting. Just happened to know
Yeah.
someone who knows each other. But obviously you've got the new venture, your business that's sort of on
Yeah.
its way up.
So I started my own. So whilst on gardening leave, I got some permission. I went off and started doing some CP. It was, I mean, without trying to sound like a twat man, bigging myself, I'm 6'5" and 22 stone. To try and keep myself in shape, there was always going to be a market for someone of my stature in this sort of industry. I fell straight on my feet. I met a guy that I knew from years ago. I won't name him because he does a lot with rich and famous. He come to me. Actually, weirdly enough, I was picking my daughter up from school, and he went, "Are you at the military?" I said, "I was saying to him." He went, "When do you want to start?" And I went, "Pardon?" He went, "When do you want to start for work?" And I said, "Well, as soon as possible. If possible." It's like, "Right, is your licensing date?" I said, "Yeah, it's all done." It's like, "You're going to come and work for me for a family, some Indian family, based up in Slough." So I did 64 days with them on a rotation. And whilst I was there, I was listening to a lot of the lads. They were all saying that they had their own little companies and they do sub work here and there. And I thought, you know what? There's a market here, but it's not being hit properly. So I thought, I'm going to start my own business. Bumped into a guy called Paul Clark, who ran another company called Limitless X Paralad. We put our heads together and we said, look, there's a market here. You're really good at the business side, obviously, Paul, and I'm really good at the selling side. He went, so let's try and link in. So that's what we did. And then I sat down with Paul and I said to him a few weeks, obviously, I work for Paul directly now. So he's my governor. And I work for a family in Essex at the moment as their sole PPO. So this is what I do. So I'm their sole bodyguard. I'm actually at work now. I'm on call. So if I have to go, I have to go. But thankfully, we haven't had a call yet. And I said to him, look, we need to. The CP circuit is it's one of them. It's a minefield.
Yep.
For people getting into it. Once you're in it, it's fine. Once you know what you're doing and where you're going and sort of what direction you want to go in, whether you want to go hostile, you want to go corporate, you want to do UK based, or you want to go on the boats, it's an industry that once you've got an idea, it's great, and there is some money to be made. I mean, there's some really good contracts out there at the moment if you bother your ass. But the problem is they want experience, or they want tours, and they want you to do this and this and this, and before you know it, your mind's imploding. You're thinking, "Fuck, I'm never going to get a job because I haven't got this, or I haven't got that." So what we're trying to do is, and I don't want people. We're probably going to get an influx of veterans, which is great, and that's what we want. Obviously, there's going to be jobs where we send away, we're asked for a CV, a full body photo, not because we want to wank over them in our spare time, maybe sometimes,
Depends.
but we send them to the client. The client will then look at it, and if the client, say for example, you've got a wealthy family in London, are they going to want you to have combat experience? Probably not. Are they going to want you to be fully qualified and good at your job and look smart in a suit? Yeah. So there's an opportunity for someone. Whereas some companies will say, you can't work for us unless you've got operational experience. Well, the next 10 years of generations of soldiers leaving, you're not going to get that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the soldiers that have got operational experience are going to be aging. I mean, I'm 37 now.
Fucking old
When I
bastard.
hit 40, yeah, exactly. When I hit 45, 50, who's going to want a 50-year-old fucking fat
It's like,
6'5" geezer looking
it's very
after him?
similar. Like, so my old man is actually quite lucky with the company that he works for. He just does RST now, but
Yeah,
my old man's 72 years old. He's very, very good at his job. Don't get me wrong, with the
yeah,
experience that he's got, and through the prison service and through because he was attached to the No Eyes down in Hereford
yeah,
for a number of years, teaching them how to parachute. So he did learn a lot in the security industry.
yeah,
But yeah, he's lucky that he's got the RST job where he's quite cushy. He's very good at creating databases and
yeah.
fucking stuff like that. So all that admin side, spot on. But at the end of the
And,
day,
and his hours are set in stone as well, so he
yeah. But
knows
at the
when
end
he's
of the
working.
day, he's traveling from Hereford down to London
Yeah,
every other week. It's like, Dad, you're 72 years old. You need to
yeah.
fucking retire, will you? You cunt.
There's got to be a cut off.
Yeah.
There needs to be a shut off lever at some point.
I think with him, he hasn't. Bless him. He hasn't got much else to do with himself now. So
Yeah,
me and my brother are obviously. My brother's almost 40. I'm 36 next month. He's split up with my mum, so he lives with my brother. He doesn't want to spend that much time in my brother's
yeah.
house. So
So
he's like,
he
well,
wants to go.
I might as well be at work. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
and I suppose he's got a routine once he gets there as well. So I
Yeah.
mean, you get into a
Oh, he
routine.
loves a routine, mate. He's so
Yeah.
OCD.
Oh yeah.
I actually
This
think he's on a spectrum, mate. Genuinely.
we all are. Every single person is. No matter what you say, you've all got your ticks. Mine's my watch. If you watch this video, mate, you'll see it. I'll keep checking my time. I've done it all my life. Always check the time. People think it's rude. I don't know why I do it. I'll do it. I'm going to do it now.
It's fucking bored, mate. You're like, fucking, you still talking, you cunt.
This guy's still going. But on the flip side, like with the CP, I think a lot of lads that are getting out to. I've had a few phone calls and they go, "Oh yeah, your life looks great. I see you driving around in this expensive boat." Trust me, it's not. It's a fucking slog. Like,
mate.
There's
especially with CP, because a lot of these people think it's fucking Gucci life and that. You're on call whenever the principal wants you to fucking. If they're going out on the
100%.
piss, you're going out on the piss, mate. But you're not on the piss. You're fucking watching. And if they're taking a random trip up fucking north for no reason, you're like, well, now I'm gonna have to plan a whole fucking route.
Yep, it's an absolute, and because I'm a sole PPO, so I've got nobody else with me. I'm all on my own. So he's only got me. So if he wants to go for McDonald's, but he doesn't want to drive himself, guess who's got to drive all the way to work to get him? Yes, this guy. So
you could just pick it up.
Because he wants to go sit in there, and his usual one, his best one, is he owns a restaurant in Chelmsford. I won't name it because I don't want to start fucking getting people free publicity. But he owns a restaurant in Chelmsford, and it'll be like, "Luke, I want this," and it's like, "You're closer to Chelmsford than I am. I've now got to drive 25 minutes to your house, then another 35 minutes. It'd be a lot. No, but you're going. Oh, come on, I'm going."
Yeah, but Luke, mate, let's face it, mate. If we're playing rock paper rank, you're going to get it, mate. So
just remember who pays your wages. Oh, okay, I'm on my way.
But yeah, I mean, can I get myself a Happy Meal on the way as well? Otherwise,
yeah. I mean, the plan for me and Paul is in the future is that we want to. So Paul's a member of the Armed Forces Covenant as well, which is fantastic. So his company's we've managed to he managed to get all that sorted. So there's a give back straight away. And it's one of them things where if you're a good bloke and you got your head screwed on and you sort of got a direction where you want to go and you know that you want to be in the CP industry, then why not have a look at what we've got to offer? We can't guarantee you work. Companies that tell you that they can guarantee you work, they can't. There's no guarantee in this industry because you might send someone to a job and if the client doesn't like them, they don't like them. They're not going to keep them. There's no contract. There's no legal.
And it's like you said, once you're in the circuit, then you're in the circuit. But it's breaking in and getting your name out there.
It's one of the hardest industries to get into.
Yeah, definitely. And
100%.
And like you said, it's we want them young, but we also want 40 years experience. It's like, well, that's not going to happen, mate.
It's some. So I remember doing it. I remember when I went on the boat. So I got quite lucky. I went out as a what they call an MSO, maritime security officer. Did my first transit on the drive. I always remember. It's like your first battle. I always remember the drive my home was the worst vessel I could have physically got on. It wasn't even a boat. It was a fucking tug. It was tiny. It was like 77 meters. Just based out off of Djibouti, so we were literally sat just on the edge of the HRA. So we wasn't getting HRA paid. We had to stag on. We sat there for nearly 2 months, and then the team leader I had was like, "I've had enough of this. I'm fucking off back to the UK." And I thought, you know what? I'm going to shoot my shot. So I phoned the company. I was like, "Don't send a new team leader out. Leave me in place. I've been here 2 months. I know the vessel. We're not moving." Probably the worst words I could have said. We're not moving anywhere. It's easy. Literally 2 days after the changeover, captain calls me up to the bridge and he's like, "We're going to the Red Sea." I was like, "Great. That means I'm going to get more money." There's only one problem. What's that problem? We've only got one engine. So we can only go 5 knots. And I was like, okay, in a tugboat with no sides on it, carrying all the World Food Programme for Yemen, and we're going to be going 5 knots. He's like, yeah. I was like, this is how I die. So this is it.
This is how I go.
Yeah, this is it. So I had a young lad called Stuart Cobb, who was his first transit, and a Gurkha lad called fucking, I can never remember his name. Forgive me if you're watching this. I think I used to call him Bin. Anyway, they were great lads. Stuart was a great lad. I think he was PWRRs. He was a really good lad, and Bin was obviously Gurkha. So good, well-trained lads. So we're going through the Horn of Africa, just about to go round into the Red Sea, and then nothing, complete darkness. And I was like, okay, this is pitch black, no lights, no running lights, no nothing, no generators, no power. So now we're sitting on this 77 meter tank, no nothing, absolutely nothing. And I said to the captain, "How dangerous is this?" He went, "Well, we've got no radar." Okay, great.
Oh.
So what does that mean? He went, "We can't see if anything's coming, either be pirate or vessels. We've got no running lights, so nobody knows we're here." And he said, "The radio's not working."
Well, that's good.
And I'm like, okay, so this is just got even more interesting. So luckily we found some headlights and torches and flares, and then they managed to get the engine working again. And then we got to the port of Jeddah. The problem is, on the way to Jeddah, this is what I mean. It's unwritable. The captain has a heart attack.
For fuck's sake!
So you could not write this,
bastard.
right? So you could not write it. So the captain has a heart attack. So then obviously we go and Mayday. We managed to bring him back round. We've done CPR on him. He's alive in aspect. So we're calling a Mayday, waiting for a naval ship. Of all the naval ships, of all the armies, of all the navies in the world we could have got, we got the Iranian Navy. That's right, the Iranian Navy.
Oh.
So they've got on the vessel. There's 3 ex-Brit soldiers with firearms. You can imagine how that went. If there had been one number wrong on the fucking paperwork, I would not be sat here telling you this story like that.
You dead, mate. You dead.
It cost me about 7 morale patches and a flag. That's what we managed to. That was the bargaining chip for them to let us. And then they took the captain. The captain went off. He was flown back to it. So he was an Indian captain. He was flown back to India. Managed to get to Jeddah. So we got into Jeddah. And as we get into Jeddah, again, couldn't write it. There was a fucking airstrike. As we were involved. So by the Americans bombed the port, and we were sat there as it was going on. So yeah,
Nice.
First transit as a TL was a really quiet one, and I'm so glad I joined that industry.
Yeah, you're selling it. You're selling it.
I mean, so if any of the lads that are leaving the military or females now that want to leave the military, feel free to jump on the boats. They're great.
Now, to be fair, I think, you know, if you're, this is just my opinion now, it's not fucking set in stone, obviously, but if you're a single chap, you ain't got kids or responsibilities, fucking jump on it, get amongst it.
I mean, I don't know what the money's like now. I've not looked into it for a while, but I know the arse dropped out of it massively. So we used to get paid regardless of where we were. Hotels were paid for, food and accommodation. We had a villa in South Africa, a villa in Sri Lanka, and then hotels if you were anywhere around the Red Sea. It was great. It was like fucking Playboy lifestyle. It was fantastic. Fucking first class, business class everywhere. Flying across the country. Then it started going down to economy on fucking Kenyan Airways, and it was a bit like, right, this is a bit different. This isn't great.
I'm not sure if this will land.
Yeah, and then you were getting left on these floating fucking armories that were basically shitholes at the sea. That boats that should have been decommissioned 20 years ago that you're now living on. And food was fucking worse than what Sodexo. Actually, to be fair, Sodexo is probably worse. So no, the food was all right. Sodexo are fucking useless. But you'd spend like 10 to 14 days sitting on one of them waiting for a new vessel to come through, and you'd be like, that's when I thought. I remember sitting there one Christmas, no comms home, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. The Wi-Fi had gone down, and I thought, yeah, it's good money, but is it worth it? There's that very fine line, isn't there, where money's great, but is it worth it?
Yeah.
And I remember I contacted now Captain Morell, who was a company site major at the time, and I remember contacting him saying, Danny, I fucked up. Basically, I said, I want to come home. And he was like, listen, there's no issue with you coming back, mate. As soon as you get back UK side, let's talk. And I remember getting on the train to Windsor to go and see him. And it was a done deal there and then, signed a bit of paperwork. I sent off, and before I knew it, I was back in fucking Green Grig and marching up and down Chelsea, Westminster Parade Square for a few months. So there's always a way back. People say, oh yeah, I had a few negative comments. Oh, you must have failed. You come back. I didn't fail, mate. I went away. I made some money. I didn't like it. I come back to where I feel comfortable.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, like it's what you know, and
100%. I've lived it since I was a child. So I was 17 when I joined. I was only a kid, and grew up very quickly within the regiment. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world, so to speak.
Nah.
Maybe,
and you're literally case in point to what a lot of people I know have always said. It's like you'll get asked the question, "Would you do it again?" Yes, I would, in a heartbeat. 100%. And you fucking did it. So you went out. I
had the choice to change regiments.
Yeah, you did your time. You came out. You did a bit of security work. Didn't really like it at that moment. Decided you fancy doing another go, and another go. So, fucking why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not go back and? I mean, the grass is definitely. Obviously, I'm touch wood. I'm doing well this time round, and we're in a more settled situation family wise. We're obviously, I've got 2 little girls now, so it's nice to spend a bit more time with them. I've got a steady income, but I didn't have that the first time I left. And it took a while to get what I wanted. Obviously, I bounced around a few jobs. I worked at Canary Wharf for a little bit, doing a bit of corporate security, which, if you're into that sort of world, fantastic. But fucking what an arsehole world that is.
Yeah.
You're the lowest of the low to them guys. The cleaners getting better treated than you do.
I get it now, mate. With where I am, like I'm getting to the point where I'm getting a bit sick to death of. Like they're treating me and my officers a bit fucking shit. Yeah. I'm the estate manager, but I'm also a fucking officer. It's ridiculous. I'm doing two people's jobs and not really getting paid for it. I had a look today on just like security fucking jobs in London. So I'm just outside. I'm in Kent, and I looked and I was like, "There's security officers that are on a higher hourly rate in London than what I'm on, and I'm supposed to be the fucking manager." I was like, I was like, this is a fucking joke. And I said it to my one up. I've said it to the fucking client. Not that they're listening, but I've said it.
No one listens anymore.
Well, no, there's no fucks given, mate. When it comes down to it, I've told them that the site that I work on technically is bigger than Canary Wharf.
Yeah,
it is 280 plus acres of land with. To be fair, in terms of building wise, probably not as many because obviously you fucking loads in London, but there's like nearly 40 plus buildings that we look after, and there's fucking 3 of us working. There's,
that's a vast number of buildings, and only I mean so for a standard RST, you're looking at what 4 or 5 blokes.
Yep, and I've said this, mate. Said it from day one. When I first got there as an officer, I was like, "This site's too big," and they're like, "Wow." Their excuse every time is, well, it's Kent, it's not London. It's like
nothing's going to happen.
I was like, yeah, but well, to be fair, now, not that it's a huge issue, but we've got a problem with a number of youths in the area. They're doing a lot of vandalism. They're throwing eggs at the officers. They're fucking throwing eggs at our patrol vehicles. Stuff like that. Just annoyances, really. Antisocial behaviour. They're normal. There's no stabbings or anything, but but still, it takes both officers to deal with that, which then leaves all the other duties not being done or being pushed back. And then I get the tenants then email me direct, and I'm like, you should be going through the client here, but whatever.
Why are you coming to me?
Yeah, but they come to me. Why wasn't this unlocked at this time? And I'm like, because of this incident. And they're like, oh well, nobody's told us. I went, well, they wouldn't, because they're dealing with a fucking incident. But I can't say that, because when I'm myself, if I'm myself, I'd probably not have this job. But because my one up is always tells me, he goes, Tommo, well, he doesn't call me Tommo, but he goes, Tommo, you need to be a bit more pink and fluffy with your emails and things like that. And I'm like, well, if I'm direct and to the point, then they'll understand that
they'll leave me alone.
What they're saying to me is bollocks, and I don't want to hear it. Like, we have this one client or one tenant who think they own the fucking whole area. And every time he's an email warrior. So he'll send me email after email after email. And then I'll reply with one email saying, do you fancy a face-to-face meeting or not? and then it's, no, I don't think a face-to-face warrants this sort of thing. Can it just not happen again? I'm like, well, I can't guarantee it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
I have morons working for me at times, like cover guards that come in that don't know the site very well and stuff. I'm like, fucking, but that's work life, mate. Work life.
Yeah, that's it. That's the problem with actually having to work for a living once you leave the military, isn't it? So,
yeah. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to like slot into a job where I'm recruiting for security companies from the military. I'd love to do something like that. Like, just move people to places that they need to be in. But fucking hell.
Well, that's the dream, isn't it? That's the dream for us, I think. Not so much recruit direct, but more opportunities for blokes that deserve it. I mean, I will do a shameless plug there. Sorry for doing this, Tommo, but if you anyone that's going to listen to this, and hopefully there'll be a few, if you are looking or have done your course or want to do a course, please reach out through my Instagram or look at the Limitless website, and we'll try and point you in the right direction. Like I said, we can't guarantee anyone work, nobody can, but what we can guarantee is we'll give you some time and help you along the way. And I've always said that. I always said wherever I go in the world, whatever I do when I leave the military, be that rugby, recruitment, or what I've done now, I would always give back to the lads that deserve it and the ladies. And I'll reign true on my promise. If anyone makes contact at the end of this, I mean, my Instagram is private, but send me a message and I'll answer it. I'll get back to you. And I'll point you in the right direction. We've got a great guy up in Catterick that runs all the courses, bloke called Brent Davies. Fantastic company. They're helping the lads out. They're pushing through, telling them how to use their enhanced learning credits and what benefits they can to make it cheaper. So you only have to pay the minimum amount of money.
Exactly,
Again, I can't
exactly what I did.
Yeah. And then once you've done that course, come to us with your license and we'll try and point you in the right direction. And hopefully if we have got something that needs someone with a bit more experience, we can jump you on a job. And as long as you're willing to listen and learn on the job, then you're going to be golden. And that's pretty much what we offer. I mean, there's companies out there that will guarantee you work, but I don't know how they can guarantee you work, because there's never a guarantee.
Unless the company itself is
directly employed.
Directly employable to a client.
But I mean, they're few and far between now.
Definitely.
Again, there's a lot of companies out there that will take your money. I'm not going to name any, but there's a few. I'll send you a list after. There's a number that will take money off you under false pretenses and say, look, we guarantee you a job at the end of this. Oh yeah, 100%. You get to the end of the course and they're like, no, sorry, man, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
My old man was on a my old man did a bit of a cowboy CP course because he's like I said, he's old school, so he never had to go through the licensing.
Yeah.
He could just jump on the circuit if he wanted to. And he was already in with the company that he works for. I won't name him because I don't know if I'm allowed to or not. But they said, look, Tommo, Big Tommo, you've got a job, but you need to get your license. So my dad basically looked online for like the cheapest one to get his fucking CP license.
Yeah.
And I remember him phoning me up during it, and he went, "This is the most ridiculous course I've ever done." In fact, at some points, he was actually taking some of the course, and he wasn't even licensed. He was like, "It's ridiculous."
Yeah.
Because he said to me, he went, "What course did you do?" And the course that I went through was at the time, I don't know if they still are, so that's just a disclaimer. Were fucking brilliant, and that was Excellentia. They specialised in corporate security. The guys are ex RMP and police.
So boring cunts.
Yeah, really boring. Really boring. They weren't bad on the piss, but yeah, during the lessons.
I've got loads of RMP friends, so I'm gonna have to say I don't mean that. I'm joking.
Fucking nodding dog when they were talking in the fucking lectures.
Yeah.
But genuinely, it was a very fucking well done course. And by the end of it, our final exercise was with what was her fucking name? Samantha Poling. She does Panorama, and she genuinely had death threats and all sorts on her, and it was basically like a end of task, but it was a live one just in case because she has had all these fucking threats. So we had to take it
learning on the ground, literally.
Yeah, and I remember I was TL on one of the exercises that they were going to. They were going to have dinner at Windows at Galvin's. It's called. It's by the Dorchester, I think.
Yeah,
it's fucking spot on. But one of the drivers took the fucking wrong turn and took us through somewhere in London that I'd never been before. And one of the instructors was acting as like her PA, and he phoned me up, and I was like, "Hello," and he was like, "What's going on? We're going to be late for the reservation." And I was like, "Whoa, hold your horses, mate. I'm trying to fucking sort it out." And I was like, "I'm trying to sort us out. We're a bit lost at the minute." And he was like, "Well, you can't say that." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And I just put the phone down on him, not thinking that I was going to get any backlash on this. And then it got to the debrief, and she went, where's the TL?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I like you because you're like me. You don't take any shit. You're a bit hot-headed. I like it." And then the instructor came in. He went, "Yeah, that's all well and good, but you don't hang up on the client."
Don't even put the phone down on me again.
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, sorry," but we were running late. I remember going up there, and it was a proper fancy fucking restaurant. And obviously, me and my oppo had to go in, be in the cover, sort of out of the way while they were having their fucking dinner. And the waitress came over and was like, "Do you want anything?" And I was just, I'll have a bottle of water, something like that. And they came over and she went, "That's £9, please." I was like, "What? But £9 for a water? I just have tap water.
Can I change that to tap water, please?
What is this?"
Always get the company credit card.
Yeah. Didn't have one at that time. Didn't have one on the course, though.
Yeah. So the good thing is the bloke I look after, I'm not going to name him, we're actually friends before I started working for him. So there's a funny story behind it. So back to when I got told I was getting medically discharged, I was strolling through London. I was coming back from our office at Horse Guards and walking back to barracks in uniform. And you know when you clock someone looking at you, and I see this guy staring at me, I was like, "Oh fuck, here we go. I'm going to get asked a really bone question." And he went, Your name's Luke Seeley, isn't it?" And I thought, "Oh fuck, who am I upset now?" I said, I jokingly said, I went, "Whatever I said on Facebook, I didn't mean it, mate." And he went, "What?" He went, "No, my name's Lee." He went, "We used to go to school together." And as soon as he said it, I was like, "Fucking hell, hello, mate." He went, "Listen, take me. So I took him around London. Then as we were leaving, he went, "I'm going to tell my brother that you're based here. He'll give you a call." So I thought, okay, random. And then
was he on a date?
Couple of days later, this guy rings me and he's like, "Hi, it's fucking blah blah blah. I'm not again. I won't say his name." He's like, "Fancy meeting for some lunch?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, yeah." So I went and met him. He said, "Look, Lee said that you took him around the barracks." He said, "Is that open to anyone?" I said, "Yeah." So like, obviously, I have to check that it's okay. You have to bring ID, but let's get you in. He said, "Oh, I don't want to do it today." He said, "Can I book you in for next week?" I went, "Yeah, absolutely, mate." I said, "Like, but working recruiting, I'm my own boss. I can sort of do what I want." Sort of thing. He said, "Okay." He said, "Can you wear uniform?" And I went, "Fucking hell, what's this, like a fucking request?"
Got a kink, mate.
He went, "No, I want to show off that I know someone in the military." And I was like, "Yeah, fine." So we wore a uniform, walked up around. It just happened. It was during troop training, so there was a lot of activity in camp. Blokes were getting fragged on the drill square. The bands were practicing everywhere, so it was great. As an outsider, I can imagine it's quite impressive. Anyway, we went upstairs for a coffee. We were sitting down. And I just found out 2 days previous that I was getting medically discharged. It was after I'd gone for my meeting. And I brought it up in conversation. He said, well, how long you got left? I said, "Well, actually, I don't know. I think I'm getting booted." And nothing was said in the room. He left. So about 3 hours later, I get a phone call. And he was like, "Look, if you leave the military, give me a call. I'll give you a job." You hear it all the time. I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Thought nothing of it.
Out in a sec.
Yeah, so then... a couple of weeks passed. I got another phone call saying, "I'll come and meet me at this restaurant in Chelsea." He said, "Don't come in uniform, just come on your own." So I went and met the guy. He sat down. He went, "Listen," he said, "I understand what's going on, sort of thing. I understand you've been doing a bit of this, that, and the other. Would you like to come and work for me?" I said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "What do you want?" It was like, "What am I coming to do?" He said, "Well,
Rent boy.
as a bodyguard." Yeah, it's a rent boy, pretty much. I might as well be. And then, so long story short, the guy gave me a job. Mate, I can't fault him. He's probably one. I think having that sort of friendship with him can be difficult at times, though, because he will ring me up. Because I think sometimes I forget he's my boss. I'm like, absolutely not. Put the phone down and I think, get cut seconds. I think, I better ring him back. Yeah, I'm on my way. Because he fuck. But I mean, look, you've got to take your luck when it comes. Haven't you? At certain points, and I got massively lucky with him. And it set me up in the position I am now for the future. But yeah, look, I think for the lads and ladies that are leaving, you've got to be very positive when you leave now. I think if you start going, if you leave and you're already panicking about it, and I held my hands up, I was fucking in shit state at one point. I think if you leave with a bit of a positive attitude and you make the right contacts, it's definitely, it gives you a little bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling inside that there's people out there that actually want to help you.
And I want to add something to that as well, because I've sort of mentioned it on a few different podcasts as well. It might be different now, but when I left, it was basically like we said at the start, what's your transferable skills? Oh, I was in the infantry. Oh, you might as well go to security then. Don't just take that as a gospel. Like, actually think about what you should do and things that you might need when you get into Civvy Street. It's not like when you're in the military and they go, "Oh, you fancy doing this course?" Yeah, I'll do that. I'll add Bowman to my fucking list, because that's transferable as well.
I think a lot of the problem, and this isn't a dig at, I don't want to dig at the military because they were good to me for many years. But I think a lot of the problem with the military is there's courses there for blokes that they can do, which is, even if so people think, "Oh, you're in the infantry, you can't go do that, you can't do this." Actually, you can do it.
Yeah, of course.
You just got to ask for it.
Yeah.
But nobody tells the guys this. Instead of saying, "Oh, look, lads, you've got a slack couple of weeks here. You're all up to date in your maths. There's not really much going on. Instead of fucking giving you instead of doing areas 2 days, twice in the day, and why don't you go and do a fucking education course? Why don't you go and do this?" It wasn't until I was getting medically discharged. Obviously, there's a difference. So anyone that's been medically discharged will know this. When you get when you're told that you are to be MD, that's you pretty much can fuck off and fuck off into the wind. As long as you stay in contact with the military and you tell them what you're doing, you can sort. And I remember coming home first 2 weeks, and I was like, this is fucking great. On the sofa, a bit of Netflix. Then it got boring, and I thought, right, this is boring. The wife's at work, kids are fucking out. There's only so much FIFA you can pay. I'm completely pulled up. I'm fucking bored of RedTube. What else can I do in my life? And then I started looking at courses.
The sore
So
subject FIFA at the minute.
Yeah,
My
I knew I
Xbox
had.
side.
Oh, dude, you don't want that, mate. You need to do one.
Rest in peace.
I knew I had my CP course booked in. I thought,
Yeah.
what else can I do? So I went away, did business management, went and did some management courses, went and did everything that I needed, that I knew I'd need to start a company or to start trading as a company.
Yeah.
And then I remember asking the guy at the end of the phone, he was great. There's a guy from what's his name? Peter Burns. But anyone that's getting out from London, if you go through Peter, he's great. I didn't even know he was a serving soldier, to be fair, because he's so pally with you. And then when he sent me his email, I was like, fuck, I've been calling this geezer pal for the last 3 hours. Absolutely sound as a power bloke, probably the best bloke I've met. I've met some great blokes in the army. He's probably one of the best. Him and another guy called Trevor Jackson absolutely squared me away to a T. And I remember phoning Peter and going, Peter, these courses, could I have done these at any point in my career? And he was like, Luke, people get this misconception that because you're leaving, you have to do a course. He said, you can phone us at any time in your career and ask for a course.
But people don't know that, though. That's the downside.
So I could have gone away and done these courses years ago and been more qualified. And I think the army needs to do better. Better prepare people.
The forces in general, mate.
Yeah,
because as good as the Air Force can be with certain things, there's also things that they're shit at as well. In
100%.
Like I said with my resettlement, they were like, "You just do security." When in theory, with someone like myself, would have done better with some sort of trade, like whether it's plumbing, fucking sparky, or carpenter, or whatever. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and like I said, the only transferable skill I had was I was trained to fucking shoot people.
I can blow shit up
and blow shit up. But even down to like before that, I was a PT instructor before I joined up. But there was no oh, have you got any other qualifications that you could build on? Whether it's advanced fucking, I don't know, wanking, I don't know. But I'd be a master of that. I got a fucking black belt in that. Black belt in masturbation.
Look, I could sit here all day and I've got some really, but I don't want to sit here, especially my regiment. They're in the firing line for all the wrong reasons at the moment, anyway. And I don't think we want to. I don't want to burn that bridge. But I mean, there's definitely room for improvement across the board. The armed forces. I mean, I don't know if you know this, if you've been through social media, but we did a game for combat stress against the MPs. Johnny Mercer was there. Boris didn't show up. He bottled it. It wasn't a 12-year-old kid that he was tackling. It was adults, so he didn't want to know. So he bottled it. But we spoke to Johnny Mercer at length afterwards. What a great guy he is, by the way. And we said to him, like, what is the problem? Why are we so overlooked? Why are we, for example, and this isn't a dig at anyone that's striking at the moment, you get all these people striking, doctors, nurses, train drivers, fucking wage they're on. I'm not saying nurses are on a great wage, but train drivers are on a fantastic wage, and they're still not happy. Whereas soldiers, we've actually took pay cuts over the last 10 years. I left on a guardsman's wage,
and it's illegal. Strike.
I left on a guardsman's wage and come back on a guardsman's wage, but because I'd left on a certain wage, they couldn't put me down. And the guardsman's wage that I left on in 2012 is now a serving Lance Corporal's wage, and it's like, well, how can that be acceptable?
It's not. No.
You can't earn that money. I mean,
and even a lot of people have overlooked a few things with that. Like, obviously, our wages were smaller because apparently we were paid 24 hours a day or whatever it was, or 23 hours and 59 minutes.
£2.50 an hour.
Yeah, you had 1 minute to yourself, don't you, or something? Yeah. But
there's a lot I can do.
But back then, when we first joined up, you had a decent room.
Yeah.
Fucking hot water.
Scoff.
and now they have to pay for all that. It's all pay as you dine. So how was that happened? And they're on less wage, but they're paying for stuff that they shouldn't be paying for. It's ridiculous.
Scoffers. I mean, I think back now to when we were based in Lille Barracks in Aldershot, and I was a bit of a camp tramp in the first 2 years. Couldn't be asked to come home most of the time.
Yeah.
So I'd stay there at weekends. I'd go out on the smash on a Friday and a Saturday, then spend all day Sunday recovering before Monday. And you'd go down to the cookhouse at 8:30 in the morning, get your scoff. You'd go back at 11 for brunch, eat as much as you wanted for brunch, fill yourself up, go sleep all afternoon, go back at 5 for your Sunday roast. It was fucking great. Now, you go in there and you're like, you get an extra sausage, and it goes from £3 to 70 quid, and you're like, "Whoa, fucking hell!" Like, this is a fucking.
It's fucking weird, mate. Genuinely, I was similar. Like, before I met my missus, I fucking loved it on the camp. Like,
fucking.
When I don't know if Dan may have mentioned that our first camp that we had. So we were. The main camp, RAF Hollington, was basically full. So the lads that had just passed out, we didn't really have anywhere to go, so they put us in the transit sort of camp, RAF Barnham, and our room, it was fucking brilliant. It was, although it wasn't like a slam block, the fucking rooms were bigger. There was only like 3 or 4 of you down a corridor, so the showers were pretty much free. But the food, mate,
unreal.
Oh, because it's a small camp as well. They put a lot of effort in. Oh,
yeah. And the thing is, the blokes are a lot unhealthier now because PTIs have backed me up on this in the regiment, because they can't afford to eat good scoff, so they will go and eat shit, or they'll go and buy shit from the shops and survive on fucking 20 cans of Monster and a fucking Russell's burger because they're skin.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you didn't need that. But I don't ever remember when I was young in the army, I don't ever remember eating as many takeaways as I did.
No.
Pay as you dine come in.
Yeah, occasionally you'd go, lads, you fancy Chinese? Yeah. But most of the time, you'd just eat from the fucking.
It was fucking
cookhouse,
free.
And it was free. And you'd spend all your money on going out on the piss because you knew that if you had no money, at least you were getting fed.
I even remember I remember going out on the piss on a Saturday afternoon and going back to camp for evening meal, and then going back out on the smash. Do you know what I mean? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that now. You're better off fucking getting a kebab. It's cheaper.
Yeah. It's fucking madness. It's the fucking politicians again, mate, selling contracts that they don't need to sell.
100%. 100%.
Those poor military chefs that just got fucking pinned off for these fucking, I don't even know what these cunts are that they've got in.
Listen, anyone that's based in Wellington Barracks will know who I'm talking about. There's a certain guy, I'm not going to say his name because I remember in fucking hot water, but he's a certain guy who works behind the hot plate, and he's probably the most disgusting human being you've ever met in your life. Never washes his hands, goes to the loo, and then will finger your food, and you're just like, I've just paid you fucking a month's salary for that shit wrap.
Yeah.
And you fucking shit your finger through it, you can't. But I'm still going to eat because I paid for it.
Yeah,
so I need to eat.
It's horrible though, and you see all the horror things from like on Fill Your Boots and things like that. Alfie's constantly posting stuff about this.
He's got the Fill Your Boots. He's got your Fill Your Boots or rate your boots or something now, isn't it? Which is the meal one. Have you seen that? Yeah, he's got that now. So. Alfie's great because he just speaks his fucking mind. He'll tell everyone what he thinks. So
yeah, and it's quite funny though when you think about it, because a lot of veterans and serving military blokes, you do speak your mind, even though you are basically trained not to speak back or anything. It's as though that you've regressed all that fucking stuff from basic training through any other training, and you get out and you're like, no, I'm just gonna fucking tell people how it is.
Listen,
you.
I'm not gonna name him, but I know he's watching. I know he's gonna be watching because he asked me today when it's getting shared. He messaged me today and he went, Luke, I love you and I know what you like. He said, but please just be mindful, whatever you say will stay in this domain. He went, don't go on there and fucking sink ships. He said, because I know what you're like. So
Loose lips, mate.
times, yeah, there's been a few times where I've gone, oh, shit. No, I'm not going to say that one. No, I won't say that one.
My missus is forever like saying, be careful when you say stuff on there, because if you do go for another job and they find out that you run the podcast, I'm like,
Yeah.
I went, well, they can fucking listen and fucking like it. Gets my numbers up.
But then they've also got to understand that when you've done the job that we've done for, be that 2 years or 20 years, you're going to have a different mindset to the normal Joe public. But yeah,
we're not normal.
Yeah, right, Tommo, I'm getting the look from the long haired
I was about to say exactly the same thing, because I'll get a message in a minute saying, well, that's a funny hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, but it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. And like I said, give it a few more months. Once we're well established, and then we'll have another chat and we'll have a catch up and
mate,
see where we are.
Always welcome, and
all the best.
Thanks again for your time, mate. Genuinely.
Well, let me know when it's shared, and
I will do, mate. It'll be in the next couple of days.
All right, perfect. Nice talking to you, mate.
Catch you in a bit.
Speak to you soon. Mate.